Welcome to another inspiring episode of Christina in the Valley, where we delve into the stories of remarkable individuals who bring together passion, purpose, and their profound experiences. Today, I'm thrilled to be in conversation with the incredible Krista Ripma, a true embodiment of the modern Renaissance woman. Krista wears multiple hats with grace and brilliance. She's not just a yoga instructor, but also a loving mother and the driving force behind Authentic Audience, a cutting-edge digital advertising agency. As the founder and CEO, Krista has built her agency from the ground up, specializing in conversion-focused campaigns and providing full-scope launch services. In our conversation today, we'll explore the fascinating journey of balancing motherhood while establishing a thriving digital ad agency. Krista has seamlessly blended her passion for wellness, a touch of witchiness, and a keen business acumen into the fabric of Authentic Audience. Prepare to be inspired as we delve into her unique approach to life and business. Join us as Krista shares her insights, experiences, and the challenges she's overcome to create a company that not only reflects her values, but also serves as a beacon of support for creatives and solopreneurs. Get ready for a conversation that goes beyond the surface, touching on the deep connection between wellness, business, and the desire to uplift others. Without further ado, let's dive into the world of Krista Ripma on this episode of Christina in the Valley, where authenticity meets empowerment. As always, if you love our chat, please be sure to like and follow so you never miss an episode. The best way to support this podcast is to leave a review, but also share with your friends and family. You can find Krista on Instagram at Krista Ripma or Authentic Audience. This will also be linked in the show notes. Follow me on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube at Christina in the Valley for some exclusive and behind the scenes content. Let's get into it. Welcome, Krista, to the Christina in the Valley podcast. It has been my dream since I started this podcast to get you on board. You were one of my dream guests when I was thinking about what I actually wanted to podcast about, and it's just so special to have you here today.
Thanks, babe. Thanks for having me. I mean, I'm excited to be on like this hot new pod I keep hearing about.
So we have so much to get into today, from podcasting, social media, your new business club, and motherhood. I wanted to start with just a little bit about who you are outside of all of your entrepreneurial journeys. What are some of the things that light you up outside of work? Who is Krista when she's not CEO of Authentic Audience?
Wow. Way to start with the existential crisis that I am currently facing. I mean, that's the question that I am seeking to answer. I think I definitely lost myself over the last decade, first in business and then in motherhood. So I'm now like really figuring that out. And I think that at my like natural state, I am still going to be going faster than most. And so that's something I'm sort of like coming into acceptance with. But like, how do I actually like celebrate my life and myself outside of this business? And so right now that looks like a lot of cleansing, whether that is like moving energy with working out. Like my fitness journey is really important to me right now. I feel really inspired by that again. It's the first time it's been like a part of my identity in a while. So that's like just the movement is a part of my daily ritual. I live by the beach. In another life, I was a free spirit that lived on my boat, and I still channel her every day. And so the beach and the redwoods are like my backdrop here. I find that as a anxious type A, living in a quieter beach town is really great for my nervous system. So outside of the biz, I'm seeking to find peace, to find play with my baby girl, and just like keep moving. I feel like I got a little stuck energetically in my ego. And so right now it's just like, am I going to move this energy by clearing it, singing it, dancing it, sweating it, showering, sweat, you know what I mean? Like, just how do we just like keep evolving, shedding? So like what's coming next has space.
Yeah, I identify with that so much right now because I feel like I'm stuck energetically and all the things I used to do to move that energy, like they just aren't working. And I think when you are a fitness instructor, like we both have been in a previous life, you're so hyper aware of the types of workouts that you're doing and how you move your body that you kind of forget movement looks like dancing it out for 5 minutes or singing around, like doing anything that just kind of moves that stagnant, stuck energy.
I realized this when I was pregnant because I was so sick and so immobile. And so realizing the magic or just like nourishment that comes from like a 5 minute walk outside or just like a couple cleansing breaths. And for me, it's just about like remembering, okay, where am I right now? What am I exhaling? What am I inhaling? And it's just a really simple practice. But for me, it became this thing that I'm now calling vocal toning to be like,
Oh, yeah.
spiritual and professional about it. But it's deep sighing, it's moaning. And I started doing this when I was pregnant because I was so sick. Literally, breathing made me nauseous. Like everything made me nauseous. And so I would just lie there like, and it helped. I am literally like soothing my vagus nerve right now. And that has stuck with me to the point where if I'm on back to back calls, even right before this, I'm gonna like shake, but I'm also just gonna like, and it's like the uglier the sigh, like the
Yep.
more you release kind of thing, like the more primal, the more you really let it go, the better it feels. And this type of like new way of being, it's like, okay, I don't need to be in a yoga studio 4 hours a day doing back to back classes in order to like find some peace and stillness. I can do that in other ways. And there is no going back, I think, especially for you after an injury, for me after, but like it's just where we're going. And so it's like meeting my body now, getting curious about what strength feels like now, because I'm just like a different person than I was when I was like so into fitness in my 20s.
And that is something we'll talk about motherhood. But one thing I do want to touch on is I feel like everybody always wants to, oh, I just want to get my body back. I want to weigh the same amount that I weighed before I had kids. I want to fit in the same size. It's like you birthed a human. You created life. You created eyelashes.
Yeah, you're just changed. And I think it can be tough to the comparison because you do see a lot of women out there after they give birth who do like bounce right back, whatever that means. And that just didn't happen for me. And so that was a really humbling experience too, because for the first time, maybe in my whole life, I didn't really have any control over my body postpartum. I like gained a ton of weight postpartum, which is kind of nuts. Like that's when you're supposed to be like losing it. And I was still gaining it. So I was just having like crazy cortisol, crazy postpartum. And my body was like doing the opposite of anything I wanted it to do. And that was really humbling because as somebody with a strong fitness practice or journey in the past, like I never struggled that way before. So it just gave me a lot of compassion to like the body positivity fitness industry, and I'm finding my own way.
We're all finding our own way and we're finding what works for us. And if what worked for you 10 years doesn't work for you now, it's time to
That's the
reevaluate.
thing. It's like that is such an important thing, like beyond just fitness. Like I'm talking to a friend right now who's been on the same dose of anxiety meds for like 8 years. And I'm like, it doesn't mean if it worked 8 years ago, it's going to work now. Like we constantly need to be like auditing ourselves and old habits and maybe old stories that like don't need to keep coming with us every single time, down to like our workout routine or the medication we're on. Like it's a constant audit. There's never like, okay, I'm good now. You are literally, as my sciencey friends would remind me, a completely different person cellularly than you were 8 years ago. So it would make sense that there's like a new makeup there that you need to work with. And I think just energetically, we can bring that to anything in our lives. Like what the person that we were going to fall in love with or date 8 years ago now is totally cringe to us. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like we are literally different people. So I think a deep process that I am in, it sounds like you are in, that I invite anybody listening to join us in, is like, meet yourself now with like out any judgment, get curious. And it's like, do I care about this anymore? Is this something that still excites me?
Yeah.
When's the last time I checked in with my psych on my med dosage? What am I still doing that feels like a little bit old and stagnant? Because that's the energy thing, and we can start to like work with that. Yeah, I mean, it's to me an enjoyable process most of the time.
Keyword
Getting to know
most.
me. Yeah, getting to know me. I mean, I'm a bit of a handful, but I think the whole thing is about getting to know ourselves so we can fall in love with ourselves, accept that, and then share that. So I do feel that deep self-love is like basically the foundation to anything we do.
Oh, so powerful. Well, speaking of meeting yourself where you're at, I do want to talk about your business journey and how you have established this incredible company. One of the things I've always wondered, and I've never actually asked you, is did you know that you wanted to start a business, your own company, or was this something that you kind of met yourself where you were at and you said, I think I want to do this. I think I could do this?
That's a great question. I don't think anyone's ever asked me that. No, not at all. I mean, in my 20s, I've always said this though in interviews, is that whatever I was doing was my dream job at the time. So I always followed my heart. Right after college, I followed my heart to LA and I got my dream job at the time working on TV sets and reading scripts and just like getting this really hands-on experience in the production and film and TV industry. And I switched industries very quickly to follow my heart into the health and wellness industry when I went and lived in Aruba. And so all of these like little experiences at the time were exactly what I wanted to be doing. But no, nowhere in my head was I like, in 10 years, I'll have a business. Like, no. And it wasn't really until I met Clay, and I hate to give him all the credit. Clay's my husband now, but when we met, was doing brand work, teaching yoga, like just a little bit of here and there. I was chief of brand at a yoga studio. I was teaching like 4 to 8 classes a week, and I was like doing website and social media support for yoga studios. Yoga was my access point to this company. And so I was just really seeing a need in that space. I was falling in love with yoga at the time, and I believed and still believe the more butts on mat, the better the world. So I felt like marketing yoga was like my dharma. Turns out great people are in every industry, not just yoga. So I've expanded now in who I serve. But when I was doing that, it wasn't like intentional. I wasn't building a company. It was Clay, who my husband specializes in business development, like saw that I had a real business. Like I had a method, I had a system, and it was like really working for people. So we sort of set out on this journey together of really trying to find ourselves, find our purposes. We were falling in love, traveling the world, reading books like Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, Choose Yourself by James Altucher. So I feel like I was like getting like this messaging through osmosis of like the way you want to do it hasn't been done before. So it was almost like I had no choice but to start my own company, because what I wanted to serve and how I wanted to do business didn't exist. And so that in 2017 is how Authentic Audience was born. I was having a major business breakup with a really woundy experience to this day. Like I can still physically feel that. And I was like, there just has to be a different way. Like there has to be an authentic way to do business. This is yoga, this is healing. And so I was in the shower one day and I was like, that's it. It's Authentic Audience, and this was before authenticity became a buzzword. And so it really stuck and then has evolved from there. It's been so many iterations of the agency, but it's just been the same mission, which is like to serve humans doing work in the world and help them connect with their dream customers, their authentic audience. And that's it. The rest is history. So that's what we've been doing ever since. And I've learned so much because I never sought out to do this. Even when we started the business, I did not realize I was a business owner, probably until like this year. I realized I'm a CEO. And I asked my therapist a couple months ago, I was like, I don't even know what a CEO does. And it's like, that's what I'm doing now. I'm learning how to be a CEO. I'm finding this new growth edge. I have a team. It's less about my strategy versus like people management and sales and operations. So I'm just stretching myself now and like all of these new ways. We raised money and took on investors this year. And I, have a real CMO. And it's like, whoa, this is happening and we're here. And no, do I have a plan? No. Do I know where I'm going? No, but I am like really listening to the moment. And I feel like that's something I've always done, regardless of how loud my ego has been or self-doubt or resistance. It's like, no, like this is what's calling me and this is what's guiding me. And this is the body of work I need to go all in on right now. And it's still authentic audience and it's been tested. There were times where I was going to shut it down. I was so sick during my pregnancy. I almost went bankrupt. I've had credit card debt. I mean, you freaking name it. It's awful, awful. I mean, bookkeeper, like just like the trauma. But it's still my baby. Like it's still calling me. I've had a baby and like here I am just madly in love with it. So we'll see where it's taking me, but I'm happy to be here.
I'm happy that you're here too. I've watched Authentic Audience since it was born, and what you've done with it is nothing short of incredible and inspiring. And I'm pretty sure you inspire people to kind of take that leap and take that jump every day into doing what maybe they see a need for in the market, but don't currently see.
Yeah, totally that. And if you see it in the market and you want to do it too, guess what? It's already market. There's already like proof of concept. People want it. People need it. Jump into the space. Now is the time. Like, let's play. So, whether you see a gap in the market or there's something that you love and you want to step into that space, like, it's one of those things that it's alive. And Susie Batiste is one of my business vision holders. She's, a huge entrepreneur, such a witch. And she talks about these alive ideas. And not everything we create, launch, do is going to be a hit, right? Like it's not every song on the album is going to be a number one. When you have that alive idea, how you listen and receive and almost like devote yourself to serving that idea is, I think, a huge part of entrepreneurship because so much can hinder us from just like, what is the idea? How does it want to come through? How do we strategize this and how do we bring it through? So I feel like that's really where I like to play with people, not just in how we're going to connect with the people, but how we're even going to launch it and what we're even going to say and how we're going to say it because the idea is alive and it wants to come through. And so my job as a strategist is to help you figure out how, to who, what action we want them to take, set some success metrics around that so that we can develop a real strategy. And my dream clients don't have that. Like they have the gift, they have the service, they have the calling, they have the alive idea. And so that's all you need is an alive idea and we can take care of the rest.
We'll help you with that.
Bring me alive ideas because that's the hard part.
Yeah.
And I sometimes feel like, and I'm totally going to embarrass myself, my husband, and everyone I know when I say this because I don't equate myself, but I feel in resonance when Rick Rubin is speaking about music because he has this famous quote where he's like, I don't know how to play an instrument. Like, I can't carry a tune, but like, I know when it's a hit. And that's kind of how I feel about marketing is like, I can't run your ads. Like I have a team to do that. I don't even know how to do that, even though that's what my company specializes in. Like, I don't know how to do the tech or the back end or whatever. But what I know is when I hear a top of funnel offer or a membership or a retreat or whatever it is, I can tell you that it's alive and how to bring it out of you. And it's alive. But sometimes it just takes that like reflection of like, that's it. Like yesterday, here's a perfect example. I'm on a call with this really great client of mine, and she's a launch like specialist around copy and content. So she really wants to niche into launches, launch copy, launch sales pages, all of that stuff. So obviously she's working with me. I'm a launch strategist. It's really great. And so I was asking her about what is like an initial aha moment that people have when they're working with her, or what is like something that people in her world are just missing the mark on. And she goes, well, everyone's sleeping on pre-launch. And I was like, that's it. The freebie is your pre-launch strategy, and that's going to upsell into your launch strategy that people, but like, you just know it when it's there. And to be able to hold space for somebody to have an alive idea is such a gift.
That's that deep intuition that we kind of talk about, where it's so much more than knowing that you're doing the right thing and having that feeling, but you feel it deeply internally. And I think knowing and being put on this earth and then finding that thing of just, no, that's what's right. I know exactly, that's the top offer. That's what you should be doing, the pre-launch, exactly what you're talking about. I feel like I've kind of been starting to experience that, but trusting that that's right, I think can be very, very hard for women, especially.
Yes, yes. And I'm glad you brought that up. And I think too, it's just like when you think about an alive idea, or when you think about alignment in general, like my sister does this all the time before we work, and she teaches life coaching and hypnosis. And I have her host and teach a lot of workshops. And we always start with settling to our body and like feeling into an aligned yes, and feel where you feel that in your body. And then she does the same thing with a no, and how that feels. Even when she does it, I like feel myself like concave and like sort of like curl up. And so when we can start to tune in to those like aligned feelings in our body and mind, I think it's like when we hear an idea, or even sometimes I'll get a DM and it's just like, this person's a yes. Like, it's just, you know what a yes feels like. So it's just instant. And if it's not instant, step back and go to that little pendulum, that internal pendulum, and be like, okay, bring me to an aligned yes. You know, an aligned yes makes me smile just saying it. Okay, bring me to aligned no. Okay, now where does this fall into that? You know, and see where that fits, and let your body, you know, be your intuitive pendulum, because it will tell you.
I know a no immediately. I feel it in my stomach, like right in my sternum.
Mine's my chest.
Oh, yeah. The tightness. I've struggled with what a hell yes feels like, but it's like a muscle. Once you start working it and you start trusting it, you realize, oh, wait, that's what a yes feels like. That's what a no feels like. It kind of
Mhm.
changes the game for you. You can up level so quickly and really start doing things that have greater impact, as opposed to, maybe I'll do this, maybe I'll do that. No, this is what I'm doing. This is who I want to be. And this is how I want to impact others.
And I think it's like 100%. And when you have an aligned yes, it's hard to fight that in your ego. Because, like,
Yeah.
my ego is just attacking me in so many ways this week. The lessons are just lessening. It's easy to start to like question our decisions, and it doesn't even matter in business when we like have an off week, or somebody has a bad experience with us, or like you get negative feedback, and it's just like you really start to question. But I'm like, man, but this really isn't aligned yes. So, like, I have to just set that aside, because this is a yes for me right now. Or like, I have somebody right now who I'm trying to set a boundary with because it's not a yes, and it's not landing. And I've gotten more direct every time and it's still not landing. So it's actually making me question my intuition. And I'm like, could this be a yes? And then I'm like, no, it's still a no for me. I have to hold my ground. So it's almost a way to like bypass my ego by dropping into like, okay, but my ego is telling me one thing, but what's real? And also, when I'm having an ego reaction to something, I can't trust myself in
No
that
one can.
moment. Yeah. So it's like I need to go into the body or move energy or like shift this situation so that I can clear whatever needs to be cleared so that I can make a decision from that place, because it's hard to drop in when I'm just like righteous and wanting to like rage email and whatever. It's hard to like feel into your deep alignment in those moments.
So people listening to this podcast are going to hear us talk about alignment, intuition, the alignment of the moon, being a witch, teaching yoga, all these different things. How did you incorporate all of that into your business? Because I feel like that is one of the hallmarks of authentic audiences, astrology and all those special things. And that's not something you're going to see in your standard ad agency or creative marketplace.
I think it took a while, like for me to come out as a witch and be like, oh yeah, I'm like fully a witch. I Reiki your business before every call. Like I'm like ringing the bells during launches. We pray to Lakshmi when bills come in. Like, I mean, it's real, the spiritual intention in our business. It's may we be of service. Like that is it. It begins and ends. But I never said it for the longest time. And so you know me because I had this like fitness background and that I've done yoga and Reiki, but I had this Instagram in my 20s that was like all yoga and spirituality. And then all of a sudden, I had a business mentor say to me, you should start talking about business on your Instagram. No, that's just like for my yoga. I'm not gonna, like, I did not want to be seen as an entrepreneur. I just like was having so much around that, which is funny because like my yoga account, I was like half naked doing handstands. Like I didn't care about being seen at all. Like the more the better. So with this, I had to like come out as a business owner and marketing expert and really like stand in that and own it. And so I went like the other direction because I'm like, I have to be taken seriously in business and I have to have a very serious website and I have to be like, I don't know why I thought I needed to be anyone other than me. But naturally, my clients started finding me and the astrology and, you know, all of that. And even then, I was visiting one of my first really big clients in Hawaii. And she said to me, you know, I had no idea how spiritual you are and how witchy you are. There's so much that we don't see, and everything's a prayer. And that reflection was like, is it inauthentic, like, of me to not be sharing this side of me? So it was like a little seed planted that my dream client like didn't know this like full side. And it seemed like she was really inspired by that. I then decided to lead the very first Body Mind Business retreat, which was me incorporating yoga, bringing my yoga teacher there, doing astrology workshops and sound healings, and really showing the holistic tools that I've used over the years to grow my business and just like remain sane and in service and on my spiritual journey. And when I saw the impact of bringing all of myself to something like that, I was like, I gotta come out as a witch. And so that's when I launched Witchy Business, which was like the first version of what is now the business club. And I like came out as a witch, and it was the most alive launch I ever had, where I like stepped into it and was like, we're going to be sporting your business, body, mind, spirit business. Like we are witches. Let's talk about that. Not only are we going to talk about business and funnels and data and revenue and projections, because that's really important, and hot witches do their finances, and we need to be talking about the metaphysical and what's really going on here. And so it's like all of the things. It's alignment, body, mind, business, spirit. And that took off. And now you're saying like, you don't know authentic audience without the witchy side. It's only 2.5, 3 years old.
Wow.
Since I even came out as a witch. And I've let it evolve and I've let it grow. But even in my bios, like my public bio now, like I add witchy mama at the end. And it took a very long time. And I wish I had come out as myself sooner.
I want to talk about the business club, but first I want to ask, have you received any like hate or any negative feedback coming out as, you know, something so special that you're not going to hear most people talk about?
Oh, yeah. I get hate for using the word dharma. I get a lot of haters saying I'm like misappropriating spirituality by bringing spiritual principles into business. There are some really offended people when you talk about spirituality and business in the same way. And I think for a lot of people with deep spiritual practices and those committed, there is a funniness around money. A lot of yogis and traveling swamis will take a vow of poverty. You know, they renounce everything. So there's just this like long line in the spiritual community of not having money, I guess, and it being bad. And so here I am talking about business side by side. And what really like made me just not care, I guess, which is crazy for me because I care a lot. I was sitting with a Nath Baba in Pashupatinath temple in Nepal, in Kathmandu, and I asked him about being a yogi in the West and being a householder in the West and having business and what that meant and what Shiva thought about that and what he thought about that. And he just looked at me and he goes, Shiva loves money. And I'm like, oh, yeah. Like, it's this ego that we put, like, all this stuff. And then I asked him once, what do you think about yoga in the West? And he was like, Shiva wanted yoga on the tongue of every person. Yoga is on the tongue. I am happy. Like, there's no ego. And it's not about like anything other than the energy. And he said, and so they saw me the next time and they're like, oh, business yogi, which is like such a paradox to even say. And so that just made me lighten up and realize like I am not on the path to be a renounced yogi in the Himalayan caves. I am meant to be here in this time at this intersection of technology and humanity in my full power. And that means bringing my spiritual practices into the work. And for those people I'm really here to serve, they're stoked. They're like, hell yeah. Like they want the intention, they want the Reiki, they want the magic, they know about the metaphysical, and they're aware of the effect our energy is having. And I work a lot with business energetics. That's sort of like the access point, I would say, to the work that I do is like becoming aware of the energies that are affecting your business and the relationship you are in with these energies and how we cut the cord and strengthen the cord. And I think it's like hard to fight that. It's like we all know if you're not into it, I think it's boring and you're not for me. And that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. Not everybody is going to like you. And that is an amazing thing. Like the more controversial, the better, in my opinion. The more risky, the more out there, the more authentic. It's magnetic. And I'm just like, look at T Swift with the Super Bowl.
Oh
right
my
now.
gosh. I know.
I mean, the energy around it, it doesn't even matter if it's positive or negative. It's just like she's on fire. People don't want to stay away, hate or love. They can't stop talking about her. And it's like that type of energy is something that you just can't fake.
You've just launched your business club.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about it. Who is it for? What can we expect? What's next?
The club is everything I've ever wanted in my dreams. And I think this will actually happen sooner than later, which is pretty crazy with VR and AI. But my people are all over the world. In a perfect world, we're all gathered in one space because the energy of gathering together is just, there's nothing like that. And I think COVID really taught us the sacredness of in-person connection. And yet, here we are, you're alone in your office. I'm alone in my office. We're just alone on our little islands and we need support. So the idea for the club is your body, mind, business haven, and it's live weekly classes every week as if you were at a real clubhouse. So there's a lot of astrology. We do a lot of planning around the lunar cycles, productivity, things like that. And then every week there's a live class. So I teach live business classes on mindset, on email marketing, on creating your top of funnel, on paid advertising, every month a different business focus. And then there's the live witchy guests who have come to me through my network. I have like this incredible network of witches, and I have this really great access. So I bring them in to like host live workshops. We have focused co-working sessions. I'm incredibly neurospicy, and so body doubling and having like sprinted co-working sessions in group is amazing. I think we might even start doing them weekly because people are just obsessed. I have so many neurospicy people in the club. And so the focused co-working is incredible. We got a lot going on in there. So live classes and then all my courses. So I've taught so many courses over the years, and I didn't know where to put everything around marketing fundamentals, selling boot camp, launch guide, all of that stuff. So everything now lives in the club. It's a pop-in community. It's only $44 a month. You can cancel anytime. You can join free as my guest. I'll create a code just for Christina. You can join for a whole month for free as my guest. I'll give you a 30-day pass. So you can come to the live events, talk to me about your business. There's Q&A threads, so you can ask me business questions. You can ask Thea social media questions and Anna astrology questions. And it's like, I want it to be a daily drop-in for you to feel supported and not alone, empowered, seen, and the tools to do the damn thing. And that's what it is. So it's officially here. It's alive. I'll tell you that.
It's
I knew it would be.
Of course.
But it really is. I felt this one. It's the third iteration of my business membership. It started as Witchy Business, and then I added one that was like more business focused. And then this is the combination of both, which is what I am.
The combination, the multi-passionate, it's a place of community, no judgment, but also a place where you can get significant support for your business and maybe ask the questions that some people might be embarrassed to ask or struggle with. Am I going to be judged for not knowing this one thing?
No, it's a really safe place. And I think the network is the best piece of it because you can share like all your business info. And I think a lot of us aren't like, oh, I want to be a business owner or I want to be an entrepreneur. A lot of my service-based visionaries, they got into this because they want to be a nutritionist or they want to be a life coach or a therapist or speaker, thought leader, whatever. And now all of a sudden you have a business. And so we don't get taught business education when we're going to school to become a therapist or a nutritionist. So you have this like incredible gift calling education in many cases, but not the business education that you need to couple it with that is going to set you up for success. So I really come in the club at that point for people who are like, okay, I just got like certified in all of these things. I've invested 10 grand in becoming a hypnosis, breath work, extraordinaire. And now I have a business. What do I do? And that's where we come in.
That's so incredible. That's like the baby of Authentic Audience, but Authentic Audience is kind of your baby.
Well, she's my firstborn, and I think there's a very deep relationship that I have with her. And that is one thing I will say that was a huge aha is that I am not my business. Having people meet their business and the energy of their business and realizing that you're here to be in partnership with this energy and in service to, and it's chosen you, it can be like more loving. There are days when I'm, resentful or frustrated and tired, but at the end of the day, I feel less alone because I'm like in it with my business. And then now these new offerings, they're younger, they're fresh, and I feel like I can really count on this older, like more established thing that's allowing me to try these newer things now. So that's another thing. If you have like an organic, successful business or network and you're wanting to try something new, we can totally market to the same people because they love and trust you now. And so there's just so much we can do, and we have access and opportunity with AI and with social, and anyone with a phone can have a successful business, and that accessibility to me is so exciting. We can support you.
One of the questions I think you probably get often is that you've not just, but I think your daughter's 1
Yeah, a year and a half.
year and a half. So you've recently, within the last year and a half, had an actual baby, a beautiful baby girl. And I think the question is, how do you balance motherhood and being the CEO of Authentic Audience? What does that really look like for you?
It looks like being all in wherever I am. So it was really hard at first because I wanted to be in two places. It's not that I don't want to work anymore. I still love my work. I am so grateful for how in love I am with my work. But I am now madly in love with this little girl. And I also want to be with her all the time. So it was like, I want to be in devotion to both. And when I was with her, I was thinking about what I needed to be doing at business. I decided to just go all in where I am. And we have these really sacred mornings, her and I get her up. We get about 2 hours, sometimes not a full 2 hours, but like a really beautiful way to start the day. We ring the bells, we light the incense, we have breakfast, I have a coffee. I'm not working. And this has also just changed my life because I used to go right into work, easing my nervous system into the day with like play and love and just this really pure energy has been incredible. And then I go into work mode and I am so lucky. We have the best nanny. My family's very close by. I have a lot of help and support. And when it's time to be done, it's time to be done. There's no more excuses anymore. And as soon as I shut it down, I sort of like clear it. And then I step into sort of, I intentionally am like, I'm mom now and I'm in service to her now. And the third piece that needs balancing in this equation is me, though, because now my business is getting a ton of love and Kepi's getting a ton of love. And so the new piece I'm exploring recently is where there's room for me throughout the day to take those moments for myself. And so my word right now is spaciousness, because I find that when we are really intentional and present, we can find spaciousness and we can find those moments for ourselves. My friend Jill, she's a time management strategist. She calls it time confetti, where you have a little pocket of time that you like celebrate, like you like throw the confetti. It's like, oh, I have 5 minutes. What am I going to do? I'm not going to scroll. I'm going to write down my gratitude, or I'm going to like do some shaking. And it's just like this little pocket of time you get for yourself. And I think before I was like, oh, I only have 5 minutes. I can't do that or whatever. And now it's like 30 seconds could change my whole energy. For me, when I do have those pockets of time, it's like, how do I come back to myself, my energy, and give me what I need? And sometimes it's like a drink of water. Other times it's cozy socks. Other times it's to set a boundary or ask for help. But those like pockets of time that come in looking for the spaciousness.
First of all, time confetti, I will be adopting that.
That's Jill. So Jill, Grow Like a Mother. She also has a podcast. She might be a fantastic guest for you. She just wrote a book, Happy, Healthy, and Wise, and she's in my community. And I literally, hearing that changed my life. Even before this interview, I was like, oh my God, I have 10 minutes of time confetti. Like, what am I going to do? And I sort of like dropped in with myself. I actually got ready. I put on a shirt instead of my crew neck. You know what I mean? Like, what do I need? What do I need? And so finding spaciousness for myself in the service to my business and to my baby. But time isn't real. That's what I will say. If you're not a parent yet and hope to be one day, and the time part is terrifying, all of a sudden you find the time. Time stretches, time shrinks. It is not real. It is what you make it. It's so possible to do both. And it's totally overwhelming at times, but she's the piece. It's never her that's overwhelming. It's never her. It's always the work and everything else. But like, she brings us center. So she's the best part of the whole thing.
All of the advice, even if, you're not a mother, that you just gave about creating boundaries and being all in with what you're doing, I think applies to so many people. And even me hearing that, it kind of gave me the chills. It felt like heavy in my chest, where I realized, okay, maybe I need to like really be all in with what I'm doing, because I do find that I'm scrolling or I'm just not being present in what I'm doing. And now that I'm in a successful relationship and I have a business and I work full time, I'm like, well, how do I show up authentically in what I'm doing and be present? And so now when I have an extra 5 minutes, I'm going to say, oh, this is my time confetti. Like, let me check
Yeah,
in
to
with
be
myself.
present and tune in. And I think, like you said, it's just about being aware that what you're doing. And so for me, even this call, like I put my thing on do not disturb, my phone is turned down, I full screened you because I would be super distracted by my text. Like, save yourself from yourself. You know what I mean? Like, set yourself up to not be distracted. When my therapist and I jump on, it takes me about 5 minutes to drop in because I'm so distracted. I'm texting, I'm this, and she waits because I need to clear some stuff in order to focus. So if that's what you need to do before being present, like sometimes I'm like, babe, I can't come and sit with you and Kepi right now. I have too much that is spinning. I can't be present. Let me just get a couple of things off my plate and clear this so I can come down and be present with you guys and like leave that now. And so a lot of it too is just like talking to myself. I don't think we talk to ourselves enough consciously. It's very subconscious, all of our self-talk. And so I'm like, what are you doing now? What do you need now? Like, okay, KJ, you got this. Like, I'll look in my mirror and I'm like, okay, today we're on. It's an on day, and it's just like pumping myself up. Who else is going to cheerlead us as much as us? So that's like my final advice is like, you got to jam out to your own music and be the one dancing the loudest, the most to your own song, because that's the only way we're going to get other people like on our bus dancing with us. Some days it's harder than others. Some days it comes more naturally, but for me, it's just like one day at a time. And then when I realize I'm not being present, I have those practices, lighting my incense or playing a song or doing a quick vocal tone that tunes me back in. And I'm like, all right, we're good. And even with this, I had this, kind of negative interaction today. I'm like, I need to clear that energy before we go on the pod, because here we are on the airwaves spreading our energy, and that means something. Taking responsibility for my energy has been humbling, but also really healing.
Oh, so humbling. I am experiencing that. I'm like, okay, well, I've had a rough day, but we're going to show up because people are listening to this and people are probably, if they're having a rough day, I want to light people up. That's what I was put on this earth to do, is to light and energetically send people light, just be a source of inspiration. And I very much feel that you were here to do the same.
Thank you. And that's so beautiful. And I feel that for you too. And like, same knows same. So if there is somebody that you see that spark in, I want to encourage you to, instead of feeling like jealousy or how could I ever attain that or compare and despair, it's, oh, I'm feeling something because this is lighting the spark that already exists in me. So obviously, when you followed me and had been a part of my journey, like, I was doing something that already existed in you. And so now you're doing the podcasting and you have your own business, and it's like same knows same, and that was something that was like, oh, I have that spark. And sometimes we need those people to remind us of our own spark that we have. And so I think looking for those people too have really helped me on my journey, and just seeing like whose energy is attracting me and why, and how I can play with my own energy in that way.
Oh, so special. Well, we end every episode with this one question, and it may have already been something you've said because you've given so much amazing advice. But
Okay.
what is one piece of advice that you would give your 20-year-old self?
Dump him.
That's the first time anyone said that on this podcast, and it's probably the most important piece of advice.
It's the one thing I'm like, the time I wasted in that toxic relationship. I think I was like sort of being cheeky. And I think don't give your power away would be my advice. I gave it away too much at that time to anyone who would validate me or love bomb me, like, or even not, the total opposite of that. The worse you treated me at that time, the more power you had. And so I think the power that I gave away is something that I am just like, I have a lot of like healing and forgiveness that I am working on to myself, especially at 20. I was in a really toxic relationship and just not in my truth. I was not even alive. Like I talk about, like, I didn't even know I was alive when I was 20. Remembering your power and that no one can take it unless you give it to them.
Amen. I think that's the perfect place to end. Krista, I want to thank you so much for coming on the Christina in the Valley podcast. Everything we talked about will be linked in the show notes for anybody who wants to follow Krista, wants to work with
dancing
Krista.
Because your outro should be starting right now, right?
Yeah,
so
the
I'm
outro will be
my
starting. Thank you again.
Mwah. Thanks, everyone.
As always, if you love our chat, please be sure to like and follow so you never miss an episode. The best way to support this podcast is to leave a review, but also share with your friends and family. You can find Krista on Instagram at Krista Ripma or Authentic Audience. This will also be linked in the show notes. Follow me on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube at Christina in the Valley for some exclusive and behind the scenes content. And thank you so much for being here.